the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, and it is 7:05 p.m. I will ask the administrator who is serving as clerk this evening to please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Here.
Trustee Hayes? Trustee Perkins?
Here.
Trustee Schauer?
Here.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Here.
President Richardson?
Here. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I always give you time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting of February 15, 2023. Are there any edits for the clerk? If not, Chair has an edit relative to the committee reports, specifically the External Relations report that I chair. I have submitted the edited language for purposes of greater detail and clarity to the clerk in writing, copying the administrator and the village attorney. The amended version reads, President Richardson reported that he has begun working with the village administrator and the village's permit administrator on transitioning the village's permit process from its current paper-based format to a fully digitized format. He has identified a technology company to assist in evaluating the project and will continue to work with village staff in identifying the right solutions providers that can help the village scope, plan, launch, and complete this project in the months to come. Are there other edits for the clerk at this time? There being none, Chair would like a motion to approve as amended the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting February 15, 2023. May I have the motion, please? So by Trustee Schalmoser, may I please have a second? By Trustee Perkins, thank you both. And I will ask the administrator to please call the roll.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yeah.
Trustee Schauer?
Abstain.
Trustee Van Ryn? President Richardson?
Yes. Agenda item 5 this evening is President's Remarks. We have a presentation from Carolina Cho with GHA Engineers on our MS4. This is an annual thing that we do, and it's very important to us as a community committed to the environment. So, Ms. Cho, welcome, and we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you. So I need to
Just press that bottom bar.
Yeah, that bottom bar.
Got it, okay. Okay, I think it's working. I think you all should have a printout of the presentation, is that correct? Okay, great. So yeah, this is a yearly thing. This is part of the public education aspect of the EPA ILR 40 permit, which is in place to protect our stormwater and ensure that it's not polluted, and if it is, that we get that fixed. So on that second slide, you'll see some examples of some of the pollution that we're looking for. We complete inspections yearly on outfalls within the village of Lake Barrington, looking for things like oil sheens, excessive suds, or even just a small amount of suds, blockages like leaves and twigs, and then any signs of erosion surrounding the pipe. Those things are all denoted, and I'll show you an example of that inspection form in the following slides, but the third slide just shows a couple of outfalls that are actually within Lake Barrington. They are different materials. There's concrete pipes, metal pipes, plastic pipes. It just depends on the location and what the engineer decided to use based upon those conditions. The following slide shows the inspection form that we use, which denotes pipe type, size, any evidence of pollution, any evidence of algae buildup, and any pipe damage. The algae buildup and the pipe damage aren't necessarily aspects of the permit itself, but are just things that we observe while out there since we're already there, and we let the village know of those issues, and those get taken care of. The fifth slide, you'll see the ILR 40 permit update. So this is currently on the EPA's website. It is obviously now March, and we have not yet heard anything about the renewal of the permit, which is supposed to occur every 5 years and was due in 2021, so they're just a couple years behind there. They haven't really given us much other than that statement on their website. Upon renewal of the permit, they'll hopefully give us around 180 days. That's what they've done in past years. And then we'll renew our stormwater management program plan, basically addressing everything in the permit, saying that yes, we will abide by these things. Here's how we'll do that. Any adjustments that need to be made based upon new requirements within that permit will be made in that stormwater management plan. And you'll see on the last slide, there's a potential that they might require participation in watershed work groups. Now, Lake Barrington is already part of the Flint and Spring Creek watershed work group. I think that would probably suffice, but we'll see what EPA says. If that is a requirement they have, there's a broader work group, which is the Fox River Study Group, which if they did require that, it's just based on the village's size, so it's not an astronomical amount of money, but since the village is already active in the other watershed work group, I would say that we'd be able to write some kind of memo stating that, and that hopefully EPA would be okay with that, but you never know. So cross that bridge when we get there. But at the moment, that's where the MS4 program stands. There's never been an issue of pollution within the village, and everything has looked good. There's been very little maintenance that's been needed.
Caroline, a question for you. In the event we undertook that, and that makes complete sense, why?
Yeah.
Would your office be the one that did the liaison with US EPA?
For the permit itself? Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. If there's any other questions?
Are there further questions? Oops, I see the administrator.
Oh, I would just like to add that Carolina and I met last week to go over this, and they have been doing an excellent job on preparing our annual facility inspection report, and those are actually posted through a link on our website. We have a stormwater management page, which the IEPA likes us to have, and that has a lot of information for our residents about water quality practices homeowners can do themselves, and our reports are linked to that. And so we have all of our annual reports, what is this, year 20, you said? So they're all on our website. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Excuse me, are there other questions for Ms. Cho? Thank you very much. We take this stuff seriously, and even though this is routine, it's still very important, because it reflects federal policy that was put in place for very specific reasons.
Right.
And 20 years ago, John was here. Jim and I did this together. Karen was chairing the Planning Commission, I think, then. When Wakanda wanted to expand its wastewater treatment plant and had to amend its MPDES, there was quite a bit of controversy.
Oh, I bet.
And we were concerned because the effluent went through Fiddle Creek through a groundwater recharge area in the Lakeland Estates neighborhood, and we had legitimate concerns about potential groundwater contamination. We invited them into a negotiation in lieu of litigation, where we made the Illinois Sierra Club a co-equal partner with full legal standing to sue, to enforce. And the original offer had a certain number of criteria met. The IEPA required a few more, and we had like 16. And it goes to show that you can still negotiate and have a conviction, and sometimes you don't have to yell and scream and be bellicose. And they were difficult negotiations because there was a lot of technical elements to them. That calm temperament is more to the gentleman to my left and the gentle lady to my right than it is associated with me. But I actually summoned the ability to shut my mouth most of the time. As my wife says, silence is golden, duct tape is silver. You like that one, Peggy? Is that better? Thank you for your effort, and we appreciate the great relationship we have with you. Thank you. The only other item I had under President's remarks, and I'm going to go a little out of order, and it will be in lieu of my committee report later, but it also relates to agenda item 7D on the consent agenda about Van Scoyac, our consultants in Washington. I spent a good part of the day yesterday on Capitol Hill meeting with staffers, Senator Duckworth, Senator Durbin, and Congressman Quigley, and I came away very encouraged. You guys know that I've been doing this a long time, and there are times you walk out of those buildings and you think, uh-oh. And yesterday, the staff all understood the issue, and I have to say, Jim Crum came ready to play baseball. He really knows this law. He really knows how the process works. I was extraordinarily impressed, and my confidence in continuing this engagement with him was completely reaffirmed. He was on the A-team yesterday, and we got a little bit lucky. I've had the privilege of knowing Senator Durbin pretty well over the last 35 years or so, and his staffer on this issue was on a congressional delegation staff trip with my daughter, Mary Ellen. And Senator Duckworth formally chaired the relevant subcommittee in the Senate that deals with this area of the law and this area of policy, and her staffer was really dialed into the content. She really knew the law and the application. And Congressman Quigley's legislative director was often in a church daycare center with my daughters because his parents and my wife and I went to church together at the Methodist Church at 6th and Pennsylvania Southeast for many, many years, so there was a high degree of trust there. And I felt very, very good. So when we get to 7D on the consent agenda, I invite you to be informed by those comments. Jim sent a packet home, and he's got a digital version of this. It's what we gave out yesterday. And we're going to probably go meet with some committee staff when I'm back there in 2 weeks for other business. And then the real question comes down to, assuming we are successful in getting in our requests for this, does the entire appropriation process crash because of larger issues related to the debt ceiling? That is absolutely a possibility. But in terms of us being prepared and being positioned, I feel completely confident in continuing the engagement. And I will also note for the board, recall that our agreement, as all these agreements are with Fidelity and with Max Strategies, based on a form agreement that I've used over the years that Mr. Bateman has amended for our purposes, has a 30-day with or without cause. So I think it's worth playing out over the next several months for sure. So those are my two items under President's remarks. And I can go agenda item 6. This is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. There is no member of the public present, so we can continue to agenda item 7, which is the consent agenda. 7A is ADA self-evaluation plan. B is beekeeping. What's that word?
Apiaries.
Apiaries. That's a word a day for me. Beekeeping and apiaries ordinance. C is the IGA for the PACE transportation system. D is the Van Scoik agreement, and E is a zoning variance. And I believe, Council, is that the one you wanted to talk on for a moment?
I know in rereading it, every place in the ordinance where it references 4, it should say not more than 4 dogs. And in addition, as a descriptor to the reference to dogs, it should always say of not more than 1 year of age, because that's what our ordinance is.
Okay, so Chair will ask for a motion to approve in block agenda items 7A through 7E, with 7E as amended by council in his comments presently. Are there questions before I call? If not, Chair would like a motion.
Do you need to say the ordinance numbers and all that?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Lisa's not here to keep me honest, so it's a good thing that you were here. So 7A, motion to approve resolution number 2023-R-3, a resolution adopting the Village of Lake Barrington ADA self-evaluation plan dated February 15, 2023. B, A motion to approve ordinance number 2023-0-6, thank you, Karen, an ordinance amending Titles 4 and 8 of the Village Code. C, approve resolution number 2023-R-4, affirming and approving an intergovernmental agreement between Barrington Township, Cuba Township, and the Village of Lake Barrington to provide $1,308.80 contribution under the local share agreement with PACE for senior and handicapped bus service. D, motion to approve resolution number 2023-R-5, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an extension of an agreement for professional services with Van Scoyoc and Associates relative to the village's possible environmental and water quality initiative. And E, motion to approve as amended by council ordinance number 2023-0-7. That was very nice of you, thank you. An ordinance granting a zoning variation to allow 4 Bohemian Shepherd dogs to reside at 23170 Weineke Court. Now, may I please have a motion to approve in block?
So moved.
By trustee Van Ryn, thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
By trustee Perkins, thank you. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yeah.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you very much. Agenda item 8 is the treasurer's report.
Okay, I think tonight we're going to start with a review of the budget that Karen and I have been working on. Is that correct, Karen? You want to do that first or second?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so Karen's passing out. So this is a really brief summary. We have a 5-page, very involved document that we've been working on closely. It's not really ready for sharing, but we are ready to show the highlights of the document, and we will have more meetings subsequent to this before the budget is passed. So this is just to discuss some highlights. And Karen and I are going to kind of do a dog and pony show. I'm going to focus on revenues, and she's going to focus on how she spends that money. It sounds like my reverse role at home a little bit. So,
I'm rubbing off on
honey,
you.
just focus on the top line. Just look at the top line. Work hard. Yeah. So anyways, so we'll start. What we've done is the first thing we did, we worked hard to come up with an estimated actual for fiscal year '23. And that's harder than it sounds. We still have 3 months left in our fiscal year. So we've, it's not all guessing. There's a lot of scientific thought involved. But we start with, last year we were budgeting almost a zero balance budget. Basically it was $20,000 negative. And we're showing almost a $600,000 profit this year. So I thought we should first explain how that was happening. The first thing to look at is total tax revenues are up about $215,000. So you'll see we've noted here, income tax is higher about $150,000 than budgeted. And those come right from IML. So this point last year, we're using IML numbers. They're estimating this income tax return to the municipalities over the course of the next year. We use their number, and then over the year, this past year, they kept ratcheting up, and you'll see it's, up $150,000 of what we were expecting. That's good news, because you'd hate to have it go in the opposite direction. And there's lots of reasons it's listing why, for some reason, things are coming in higher. I tend to think it's inflation and wage adjustments, with inflation. Corporate returns were
And
good.
do we get that through the LGDF?
Yeah, that is income tax.
Okay.
Absolutely. Sales tax about $50,000 higher than anticipated. I think that's mostly inflation and gas prices. We get, sales tax on both of those, and also, as we've talked about, our online sales. I think for now they're going to sort of level off. We're not going to get that big increase that we got initially. They're talking about sort of pre-COVID levels of spending going forward, and we did that as far as projecting going forward. And then lastly, use tax is a little bit higher than projected, and that's a number that comes from IML once again. And these are guesstimates at best. $15,000 on an overall balance of $190,000 isn't that far off. So those revenues are about $215,000 more than we expected. There's other movement back and forth. Those are the large ones. And Karen is now going to talk about the other side of the coin where we saved on expenditures.
Yes, so this is all the money I didn't spend this year. So when we were putting the budget together last year, we had some preliminary prices for Featherling and Fire Farm stonework. We did not go forward with that this year. the prices were high, and I did not pursue getting to see if somebody else could fix it. Part of that was Featherling Park. I think coming up, we've talked about in the future perhaps doing the connection between Featherling Park and Grassy Lake Trail with the Forest Preserve, where there's a lot of things that go with that. What about maybe a sign for Featherling Park or some fencing to denote the entrance? Do we want that stone work there, or is it going to stay and maybe get fixed so it doesn't fall over on somebody, not redone all the way? But what needs to be done? So there needs to be a little bit more thought into that. The corn crib painting, I think after we did the budget, we said, no, we're not going to paint it because it was felt a lot of the photographers and families that go out there for their family portraits, actually, they stand in front of that corn crib and they like that rustic look. So we didn't do that. We didn't paint it nice shiny white again. You might want to do that one day, but right now we did not. The half engineering fees for Grassy Lake Connection. So the engineers have started on the engineering work for that connection. We're at the point now where we got comments back from Lake County DOT and said, okay, you can go forward with this project and now you need to do A, B, and C. So the engineers will be doing that. Part of it was in this fiscal year, and then the remaining part would be in next fiscal year to continue that. We had an economic development placeholder of $50,000 in last year's budget. At the time, Trustee Burke was looking at potential landscape enhancements or sign enhancement to the Marketplace Shopping Center near LBS or Lake Barrington Commons or something, and subsequent conversations did not bear fruition on those type of things, so that might be something that gets revisited at a later time. We also had in the budget last year $56,000 for an EV charging station. I did not go forward with that this year because there's been a lot of talk lately about potential grants for communities to get EV charging stations. I've been monitoring that. Nothing has come out final yet on that kind of thing, so it might be something to consider in years to come, or next year to see what's happening. Okay, 1 second, let me get my thoughts here. The gateway sign, we had money in the budget for 2 gateway signs. We redid the existing gateway sign. We did not do a second sign, and the reason was because we could not find any good location. We have a lot of entry points into our town, and most of those other areas are on Lake County DOT right-of-ways or IDOT right-of-ways, which makes it not really feasible. So my recommendation would be to just, we have the 1 gateway sign at this point. And then the roadway work came in $100,000 under budget, and I think that was last year. We had the budget, but by the time we got the bids and everything, it had already come in under budget. So that was good news. And then the water tower logo came in under budget. So again, so all of that kind of adds up to almost $300,000 in savings. So I see Mr. Maloney and his wife just came in, so we're
going to put you on next, Paul.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's the projects that we didn't not do, and that came in significantly under budget, aside from a lot of little things. So that's why, we've got almost $500,000 in savings in this year's budget. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, so that's looking at fiscal year '23, and then we're going forward and look at a budget.
Peggy, can you get your microphone? Thanks.
You might hear me breathing, yeah. So that's fiscal '23. We're going to look now at fiscal '24's budget and just some highlights from that. And at the end of all this, we'll tell you where fund balance is projected to be. So I'm talking about revenues. So our typical revenues, we're projecting to be down a little bit. Corporate profits are expected to be down 15%, so that's going to hurt our LGDF. Unemployment is supposed to be a little bit higher, even though there's some wage growth with about 4%. They are predicting LGDF to be slightly down from this year. We'll see how that ends up. That's going to also impact sales tax slightly. We've lowered that slightly, and we've lowered building permit revenue projections slightly from this year. So those are lower sources of our regular type of income. We do have two sources of our one-time revenues we're using. We are using the ARPA funds this year. We have the cash. Once we decide to spend it, we recognize that revenue and then the offsetting expense. There's zero effect to the financial statements, but it is a source of revenue we're using for the following expenses. And then finally, we have about $580,000 in impact fees that we've been holding on to, and we will use those this year towards road work. So those sources of revenue will not be repeated in the future. I just want to make that very clear. Now Karen's going to talk about significant projects that are included in the fiscal '24 budget.
Sure. So at the last board meeting, you heard that we went out for bid for the Hillview Hillside, which is a significant investment in our business area, in our business park area. So that, construction and engineering will cost about $882,000. Our 2023 road program, the engineer's estimate is $1.8 million for what we've got right now on the books. We are cautiously optimistic that when we have the bids tomorrow, that those prices will come in under that, just like what they did for Hillview and Hillside. We do have the ability, once we get our budget finalized, to take off streets or add streets or whatever. So we've got it written, the contract in such a way that we can do that, so we're covered there. You'll see the Grassy Lake Trail connection at Featherling. I just put like a 0 right there. So again, we won't hear probably until late March or into April. As you recall, last year I applied for an ITEP grant to pay for that $305,000 trail connection between Featherling Park and the Forest Preserve's Grassy Lake Trail. So we won't know for a little while if we're going to get it, so we just put a placeholder in it for right now. They could come back and say, no, we're not going to pay anything, and in which case you might want to consider, what we want to do there. They might come back and say, yeah, we'll pay for it all, or they might say 50% or something. We just don't know yet, but I just wanted you to be aware that that's in there. Also, we put back an economic development placeholder of $25,000 at this point, in case something comes up where we might need a planner, or the signs like kick in again, that type of thing. So we'd have to develop a program around that, but it's just, right now it's a placeholder. So do you want to go over the fund balance projections? Okay.
So at the end of fiscal year '24, we're actually showing
I'll start over. Okay, so at the end of fiscal year '24, all this stuff thrown into the mix, we are expecting a large loss of $1,500,000. So we're not concerned by that. We've talked about spending down our fund balance. Once that's done, you'll see at the end of fiscal year '23, we're expecting 135% fund balance. So that's like a 15-month, fund balance. At the end of 2024, after all these expenditures that we just talked about, the fund balance is down to 78%. Now, don't lose sight of the fact that our target is 60%. We don't go below 60%, which is, it's a 7-month fund balance. We try to keep 7 months of ordinary expenses on hand. So it's actually 58% if you do the math real closely. But we don't dip down below that until 2027. That's 4 years from now. And we know a lot can happen between now and then. We're projecting pretty far out. But I feel like we're in very good shape to, take on this program next year. Even at the end of next year, we'll still have a very strong fund balance.
And what we'd like to do is to have a committee of the whole meeting the week of March 20th. So I'll be reaching out with a doodle poll for everybody's schedule where we can get together, finalize these numbers. We'll have some more data by then, and have a committee of the whole meeting about it so that we can come back at the April meeting with a fairly finalized budget, because it would come back to the board at their May meeting for approval. So we have to be pretty well spot on by the April meeting, right?
Correct.
So that's it, where we're at with the budget in a nutshell. Is there any questions?
Yeah, let me just recognize trustees. Trustee Perkins, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Trustee Scheller?
No, my compliments to getting us to this point with all the information that we have. Thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn?
No questions, but thank you for the good work.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Nothing, thank you.
I have a few. The digitization project, Karen, you and I have been talking about, are fees for potential help in that project baked into the cake?
No, we don't have anything baked into the cake yet. We're hoping to be a little bit further along before our committee of the whole meeting and know a little bit more. I don't know
Is there a
that...
placeholder?
We've talked about it, we haven't written it down in these numbers
Yeah,
yet.
we have a lot of, before our next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So these numbers are,
very big picture.
yeah,
Very big
flexible and
picture, yeah.
provide for wiggle room,
Right.
for further
Absolutely.
definition.
Absolutely.
right. And we talked about the digitization project as well, so.
So you know where I'm going with this. Every time we sit in that room and I suggest we spend something, you say, we've already spent that money. And tonight I learned how we've already spent it. You and Karen made up your mind. Why am I feeling like Colonel Blake? This reminds me of home. This is why I'm never
Submit your
homesick.
request in writing, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I answered my own question. That's why I'm never homesick here. Thank you. This is very helpful. Any concern about the 2027 balance at 51%?
Not at this point, absolutely none.
Okay.
No.
What precipitates that significant drop?
Well, you can see our expenses are going up pretty much 3% a year.
Yeah.
And our revenues are kind of coming down.
Yeah.
We're losing building permit revenue.
Yeah.
We no longer have the impact fees.
Yeah.
And we've been aware of that.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that as we get closer. But that, we addressed that conversation 3 or 4 years ago when we raised the levy and we raised the home rule sales tax.
I think the other big impact is how much more expensive the police...
That is a very good
contract
point.
is.
The police contract
Yeah.
is up tremendously, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So should I yield into our visitors, or should I continue to my,
That would be very nice if you
Yeah,
could do so.
absolutely. I'll turn this off for now.
Paul, why don't you all come up, please? Chair, Trustee Burke, are you able to hear the conversation, and are you able to offer comments? We are going to move to agenda item 13, ordinances. A, ordinance amending liquor license regulations, Class F.2, license added, and B, zoning variation 352 North Kelsey Road. Chair will yield to Trustee Burke as Chair of our Economic Development Committee for comments at this time.
Well, first of all, yeah, I can hear everybody great. Thank you, Karen. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yes.
Karen said during our test that my voice gets blasted over the loudspeakers, so I always wanted to be a rock star, so I told her I would maybe prepare a performance later. But no, thank you for that. Yes, I'm hearing everything great. You're hearing me. Set up for this, as you know, we'd had a couple of these issues, both the variance and the liquor license, something that we were prepared to do last month. Mr. Maloney had informed us that there was a hiccup with financing and went right back to work to get that done. And then we were excited to hear earlier this week that the financing had come through. So that's why he and his wife are back tonight, and we were able to, just in the nick of time, get these two items back on the agenda for the board's vote tonight. So we're very excited that we have the opportunity to pass both of these. We've had extensive discussion on both of these, and they've both been reviewed heavily. So I'm optimistic that the board will hardly be prepared to support these two votes tonight. However, I'm glad that Mr. Maloney and his wife are there tonight, so that if any questions, or the board has any questions, or if Mr. Maloney has anything to add prior to, that he can do so at this time.
Great. Paul, we're happy to have you here, and if you'd like to offer some comments to the board, and then it's our practice to go around the dais to see if people have questions.
Of course, thank you, Ms. Mayor. No comment, just grateful for Lake Barrington's partnership in developing our vision for the Kelsey Roadhouse. We're very excited. We had another meeting today with our finance folks, and everything is moving along greatly. Wonderful. So just really, please feel our gratitude in the partnership that we've developed. We're very excited.
We're delighted. Let me recognize Trustee Schalmoser for questions.
Nothing. Thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn.
I have no questions, thank you.
Trustee Scheller.
No question, just make it happen.
Trustee Perkins.
I just want to say, this is fantastic. I'm so happy to hear this. And do you have a timeline? Like, what's your timeline of event, of like how this proceeds?
Closing, no, I'd say no later than 60 days, no later than 60 days. If we can make it faster, we will. We're in a very good position at this point.
Excellent. And then I know you're going to do a lot of renovating, correct?
Yes.
If I recall from the last time you were here, yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you have anything in sight of like an opening month?
So, for the financial well-being of the business, we're going to, as my first Army commander said, like clutch and gas this thing a little bit. So our intent is never to close, but just to take bite-sized chunks of improving the property. We'll focus first on some things inside, as well as concurrently looking at improving the outside, which is really where we want to establish like a grand opening of what our new vision is for the outdoors, which we think is going to be very exciting. So don't expect to be closed ever.
It's become our go-to for takeout, especially. But when the weather warms up, we'll sit outside. But during all the winter months, we go at least 3 times a month for takeout.
It's great to hear. We want you to continue to come.
Yeah, they've done a spectacular job. And when you visited with us previously, I was delighted because you've really understood how popular that menu is. And it's very family-friendly. There are things that, when Lynn and I did go up about a month and a half ago on a Friday night, kind of on the spur of the moment, and it was wonderful. There were 2 other old couples like us, and then there were 4 families with kids under 6, and the kids were running all over the place, and I loved it.
Yeah.
High energy, bouncing off the walls, the parents trying to chase the kids. The husbands are wrong and in trouble. It was a frame of reference I really could understand.
That's right.
And I really appreciate the fact that you respect that and want to honor that as you go forward, that it's a family-friendly establishment.
Yeah, we've come to branding it like not just family-friendly, but family-first, which is different. We want to make the outdoors even more, like lean even farther into the family-first mentality outside, while maintaining spaces that adults can enjoy as well. It's a place that we would want to go to. That's the kind of our guiding light.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I like is it's a nice complement, because if you think of Onion Pub, and then Kelsey Roadhouse, and then DeMonico's, they're complementary to one another, not competitive with one another in terms of the offerings.
We 100% agree with that.
And you can enjoy each of them for a different experience.
That's right.
So I hate to say anything nice about Trustee Burke when he's listening, but this shows real vision, and I'm very grateful.
As am I. As are we.
Chair is going to call the question. Council, can Trustee Burke, since he's remote, make the motion or second the motion?
Yes, he can.
Okay, then I'm going to, as a courtesy, ask that we allow Trustee Burke to, when I ask for the motion, to make it, and then one of you please make the second. Chair would like a motion to approve in block Agenda item 13A, motion to approve ordinance number 2023-0-8, an ordinance amending section 1-10-7, quote, fees, charges, deposits, and other amounts payable to the village, quote, and section 2-3-6, quote, classification of licenses, quote, of the Lake Barrington Village Code, and 13B, motion to approve ordinance number 2023-0-9, an ordinance granting a zoning variation to allow a driveway to encroach approximately 14 feet into a minimum side yard setback of 37 feet. Trustee Burke, would you like to make that motion?
I would, so moved.
Thank you. Chair would like a second.
Second.
By Trustee Schalmoser. Thank you both. Clerk, Administrator, please call the roll.
Sure. Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
And President Richardson?
Yes, we are thrilled and we look forward to being regular customers. Thank you. And Mrs. Hirsch, thank you for taking a moment so that our guests could get on with their evening. And Ms. Maloney, I see that much like Trustee Burke and me, you way outkicked your coverage. Yeah, a lot of guys do that around here.
Okay, I'm back. So I have two housekeeping things to mention before we get started with my report. The first is, if you recall last month, Matt Bernardi was here with Bernardi Securities, and his presentation had cash performance totally wrong. Thank you, Trustee Schallmoser, for catching that. He's not only embarrassed, he's frustrated by the presentation. They're working with their vendor to get that reporting fixed. They think it happened at the end of last year when they were required to go to day-to-day performance calculations as opposed to month-to-month. What that means is there's very little cash in there, and there would be interest income coming in, they ship it back out and they invest it, but at the end, I can see where it's getting distorted. The nice thing is when you remove that, which is purely optics, when you remove it, the performance of the portfolio itself remained unchanged. So that was what the number we were concerned about, that didn't change. The cash is a problem because there's people that will be looking at how their cash is being managed. They're still working on that, and he's still frustrated by it. But he wanted to convey this to the board. He did send me a new report without the cash in it. Everything's the same, and he's still working on it with his vendor. So he just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure that you understood that. Secondly, each trustee should have received an email directly from Selden Fox. Those are our outside auditors. Our year end is April 30th, so they're getting ready to start the audit. They're charged, anyone that's charged with governance, receive those. It's like a risk fraud questionnaire. Please answer it. There's no concern, nothing's going on where they think there's a problem. It used to be at the end of an audit, those were sent to trustees. Now it makes more sense, they're required to send them at the beginning of an audit. If there were concerns on someone's part, I'm sure they would tailor their auditing procedures accordingly. I ask you to answer those honestly, and don't copy me, don't copy Karen, for obvious reasons. That shouldn't go through staff to send to them. But I just wanted you to know that there's nothing to be concerned about, confused by it, so I thought I'd mention that. Any questions on those two before I start?
No, I asked counsel before the meeting, and I had emailed, for the record here, for purposes of the record, I had emailed the treasurer and the administrator and our counsel on this, just to make sure I understood. And we all have heard the great horror stories of what happened out in Dixon years ago. And so these are,
I think the CYA on their part too, they're basically telling them you're not going to uncover all sorts of fraud. So I think there's a little CYA on their part as well.
It certainly is, but we live in an age of belt and suspenders diligence, and especially any of us who work for or with publicly traded companies, it's everywhere. So,
absolutely.
And I have to certify my lobbying reports for when I file in Washington and in several states and in Canada. About, I haven't violated the gift rule, I haven't given anything of value. So it's a culture in which it takes 78,000 pages of the Federal Register to implement 10 commandments. And that's what this is. This is
to be trust and verify, but I think it's just verify, quite honestly. Okay, so I will go on to the financial statements. So we have these, and we've sort of talked a little bit about fiscal year '23, but this is where we're at the end of 9 months. So these are actual numbers for the 9 months of our fiscal year '23. We have total assets of $5,205,000. Our liabilities are $1,622,000.
Forgive me, Mr. Snelden did not leave an email address. He said, please email directly to me, and there is not an email address.
Would you just respond to the email I sent you? Did it come from, it's Ed Tracy is the principal. Selden Fox is the auditing firm.
Okay.
So it potentially came from E. Tracy at Selden Fox, whatever.
Okay, thank you. Pardon my interruption.
No worries.
Excuse me.
I'd prefer that you had that correct. Don't send it to me. All righty, so we have assets at the end of 9 months of $5,205,000. Our liabilities are $1,622,000. Our equity is at $3,584,000. Revenues are at $2,982,000, and our expenses are $2,239,000, resulting in net income of $743,000. We just talked about that, so we know it's up. We do this comparison below that bolded line to just give you a comparison of regular operation net income and loss this point to this point last year, and that's taking out large items to have an apples-to-apples comparison. When we do that, you'll see we have regular net income of $919,000 compared to this point last year of $962,000. So we're actually very close on to last year. I don't know if there's anything extraordinary to pass to mention. Yeah, just the biggest difference between this year to last year is this year our building permit revenue is down. It's close to budget, but it's down from last year when we do a comparison from year to year. And we're trending higher with our tax revenues, as we just discussed, so that does offset it a little bit. Okay, so I'll flip forward to pages 12 and 13 so we can see the actual budget report. Kind of see where we were expected to be. And now at this point this year, we still have some larger items that haven't been recorded, but you'll see for at 9 months, our revenues are actually the budget are 73%, so trending right on budget. That's on page 12. And then on page 13, our expenditures are at 55% actual budget. And there's some larger items that have not been recorded yet, one being the sales tax rebate, which will probably be about $66,000 to Speedway this year. So that'll change those percentages somewhat. There is one account that's fairly actually largely over budget. That's the IT Communications Equipment Services. The budget was $18,255. Year-to-date, we're at $31,000, and that's really mostly due to the new microphone system put into the boardroom. It was not budgeted, it was approved, but was not budgeted at this point last year, so that's why that's considerably over budget, for good reason, though. Page 14, well, it's my page 14, I apologize, I'm not sure what your page number is. This is our quarterly, we do this quarterly just to show you how we've been spending our road dollars by vendor. You can see the first vendor there is Corrective Asphalt Materials, and that's $28,000, excuse me, this is really small print, $650,000, I think, ish, thank you. Cuba Township, and this is all the work they've done, this is excluding the contract amounts, which are monthly, that comes to $37,767. The contract amounts that we've paid over the last month, it's $13,321 a month. That times 9 is $108,570.
106.
Thank you. 106, okay. I agree with you now that you say that. Yeah, I should get my glasses, I apologize. I didn't know it was going to be so small. Doing landscaping, those are snow services. That's just for plowing the business park sidewalks. And we've always stuck it in this account. That's $1,945. Geske and Sons, this is the portion of the 2022 road program that went into the general fund. The main portion went into MFT. This is $119,800, $119,815. And as Karen mentioned earlier, that's down $100,000 from budget. That's where that budget savings is, right in that account. Lake County Treasurer, that's just our quarterly traffic signal maintenance, and that's at $519. And then State Treasurer, that is the signal at 14 on Pepper Road, and that's $1,029. So that's just a snapshot of how those road dollars, that account in the road maintenance account, how that's divided up by vendor for the 9 months so far this year. Any questions on that or anything else in the general fund before I move on? Okay, page 15, that's the MFT fund. There has been no activity in that account since we did the road work this year. We're building that back up for a couple of years before that's spent again. Right now, it's about $129,000 of current assets. And page 19, nothing to note at this point. We have about $1,780,000 in current assets, and we hang on to that for future expenditures as needed. When those repairs come in, we know they'll be large in that fund. And that's all I have until I get to the warrants. Any questions? Okay, then we've only had 2 weeks since our last meeting, that's why we just have one warrant. I apologize, there was no warrant A for you to review the last couple of days. Warrant B, there's just 1 or 2 invoices to highlight. I think there's just one I was going to mention. Oh, that's actually 2, pardon me. Barrington Township is on here, you just passed that resolution a few minutes ago, $1,308.80, that's for the PACE ridership. And then that's an unusual one, not high, but unusual for us to have on a regular monthly basis. And the other one to mention is HR Green, and that's $17,342.77, and that is a progress bill for the engineering related to the Hillside Hillview road work, and that's close to the last bill from them for that. I think in total it's $96,000 for the engineering for that. Okay, any questions? The rest of the ones, they have been reviewed, just I didn't feel a need to mention them, but happy to discuss any as needed.
Are there questions for the treasurer? Trustee Shalmo, is there any questions?
No, thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn?
No, thank you.
Trustee Scheller? No, ma'am. And Trustee Perkins? Wonderful. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you very much. What is the date on under 8A, Karen, as of?
January 31st.
And what's the amount on warrant B? Thank you. 9935. Thank you. Then Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8A, approve the financial statements as of January 31, 2023, and B, pay bills in the amount of $261,499.35 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated February 15th, 2023. Correct, Karen? March 2nd, excuse me. March 2nd, my mistake, as corrected. May I have a motion in block?
So moved.
Thank you. May I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Perkins, seconded by Trustee Van Ryn. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes. Agenda item 9 is the administrator's report.
I have nothing to report, other than I've been getting a lot of updates from the Lake County Emergency Management and ComEd about the weather forecast for tomorrow. So it looks like it's going to be lightened up a little bit from the original 6 inches that they're showing, but it could be nasty out there. So just stay safe. That's it.
I have a question for you, Karen. Where are we, since Rich Hayes, Trustee Hayes is not with us, where are we with the headhunter relative to the search for your replacement?
Sure. So they have received 40 applications. They're going through them. They expect to have to us by next Thursday the short list for your review to find out who you would like to interview with them. And so it's moving along quite nicely.
Wonderful, thank you. Agenda item 10, clerk's report, there is none. So we can move to agenda item 11, reports of the standing committee. A, branding and communications, Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you, President Richardson. I have a brief report for you. While we do not have our latest number of e-news subscribers, we were at 366 in January. Good news on the LinkedIn followers at this point, we had 113 in January. We're up to 122. So we continue to have weekly updates on LinkedIn that seem to get nice engagement from those who are following us, and so we'll continue to hopefully see that grow. Also, to make everyone aware, we had a reporter from the Daily Herald who was interested in the beekeeping activity, and so we anticipate a story publishing tomorrow about that. Was there one today as well? Okay. Very
Wonderful.
Good. That's it from me. Thank you.
Questions for Trustee Van Ryn? Then 11B, Economic Development, Trustee Burke.
Well, I have no report. I just want to say to staff and to the board, thank you again for all the hard work and support of the efforts on both the zoning variance and the liquor license reclassification for Kelsey Roadhouse. and the Maloneys, and I know that you all share the excitement for that, and I think you can also appreciate their appreciation for us standing up and being that village that's easy to do business with and wants to partner with our owners and prospective owners. So I think this is one of those circumstances that we all have to take a step back and look at and recognize that we did this one the right way, and I'm optimistic that we will be rewarded for that with the success of Kelsey Roadhouse and the preservation of a landmark in our community. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who helped make that happen.
Thank you. Questions for Trustee Burke? All right, thank you. 11C, I gave my report earlier, so we can move to D. In absence of Trustee Hayes, is there anything the administrator wants to report on his behalf?
No.
Okay, then 11E, Roads and Infrastructure, Trustee Schalmoser.
Nothing else to really report extra. President Richardson, Karen Dalton Lang gave a good synopsis of the funding, what we're going through tomorrow. The bids will be due at 9 a.m., so it'll be exciting to see how much under budget they come in.
Yeah, thank you. Questions for Trustee Schalmoser, excuse me. There being none, 11F, Public Safety, Trustee Schaller.
Thank you, President Richardson. Sergeant Javier Perez is here from the Lake County Sheriff's Department. Is there anything you would like to report while Lieutenant Scott Couric is on medical leave?
No, I mean, just as far as your neighboring jurisdictions, obviously we have problems in the area for residential burglaries. So we're giving tips to the local tenant or residents to how to protect their households. Obviously, you can do the security cameras, your large animals, large dogs and whatnot, reinforcing your doors, spotlights that are motion activated, and there's several other things that you can do to protect your home. Also, if you see something within your
we need you to turn on your microphone, and that way Trustee Burke can't hear you, and speak into it if you would tilt it down towards you.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I apologize for that. So we're speaking with the neighboring jurisdictions, not necessarily Lake Barrington and North Barrington. We're not having any main issues in there, but the subdivisions in the general Lake County area, we're having an influx of residential burglaries, which there are forced entries being made into the front doors or the rear doors of the property. There's multiple different methods of operations for those, but in general, we're just telling the public that if they see any type of suspicious vehicles or suspicious persons in their area, to contact Lake County Sheriff immediately so that we can go out there and at least identify them if they're up to no good. Also, as a homeowner, what you can do is you can reinforce your doors or your entry points, make it difficult for somebody to get in through your windows or whatnot. If you have a large dog or whatnot that makes a lot of noise, they don't want any type of confrontation. Leaving lights on within your residences, also having motion-activated floodlights or spotlights outside of your residence. I know you guys have the license plate readers, those are great, but if at the very least you can have some type of surveillance system at your residence, those are all good tools that can aid us in catching these guys that are causing issues within, our neighborhoods. So aside from that, we're not having not an influx of problems in the Lake Barrington area. But yeah, we just want to notify the residents to just be diligent of their surroundings.
Thank you. There have been a lot of news about catalytic converter thefts. Do we have any activity in this area that you're aware of?
So not in this area. So we are, if you guys look at the news, we are seeing a lot of stolen vehicles, right? So the biggest thing that we're having issues with is some people leave their vehicle keys within their cars when they're in their garage, or if they're even parked in their driveway. The problem with that is even though you think that you're in a safe neighborhood, that might be the case, but an affluent neighborhood or area such as Lake Barrington, criminals target those areas in hopes of getting higher-end vehicles or whatnot. So we obviously tell people that to take garage door openers with you into your residence when your car's locked. If you have the little home link feature on your car, it's like the little buttons on the top, with the smart car or with the electric vehicles, it's through the applications or whatnot. But to remove that, right, so that if somebody were to break into your vehicle, if it's locked, that they can't get into your garage. Don't leave any keys in there, lock out components, and especially don't leave the vehicle keys in there so that you're not an easy target. We're not seeing the catalytic converter thefts too much on the western part of the county. We have seen it on the eastern part of the county, but not so much in this direction.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of activity from the Sheriff's Department as usual in Lake Barrington and North Barrington. My compliments, we had an unfortunate incident a couple days ago at Lake Barrington Shores in which one of the residents was in the hot tub and was found unresponsive. And Lake County, I think, had 3 squads. The Wakanda Fire Department brought a fire engine and an emergency vehicle. They spent about an hour, unfortunately, trying to revive the individual, but unfortunately did not survive. But the response we get, again, because of the Sheriff's Department and our police and our fire departments, I can't compliment it any more than that. They are there. They spent an hour trying to revive this individual. It's unparalleled, I think, as far as the service that we get from the department and our fire department. So I want to thank the departments for that. And, you have one squad in North Barrington and North Barrington, but incidents like that, you get more response than you would get from Tower Lakes or various other places I met. So thank you very, very kindly for that.
Thank you.
So the Wakanda Fire Department was involved in that, and they've been very busy. The Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, I think I mentioned that Jim Cryer has taken Karen's advice and has decided that he's going to retire in June. Our landscape coordinator at Lake Barrington Shores, Bill Metzler, resigned in June. He's going to retire. Seems to be an ongoing thing. But at least the Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District did appoint Scott Motese, who's been a deputy chief with the department, as a replacement for Jim Cryer, and that will take place in June of this year. So we continue to have a good relationship with our departments, and I appreciate the cooperation that we get from them. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Scheller? Then 11G, Open Space and Special Events, Trustee Perkins.
I don't really have anything new, just that we're working on, Lisa and I and Julia are kind of brainstorming for the our summer concert series. So we're just kind of brainstorming on bands, listening to some bands on on YouTube, and we keep talking about going to see a band, but that hasn't happened. So we're working on it though. So I believe that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Trustee Perkins?
I just want to point out that LBS is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. All kinds of events are taking place at LBS, but we're happy to be involved in whatever's going on at the Fryer Farm. But I do want to invite people, on June 30th, one of the concerts at LBS will be an ABBA salute. My wife is Swedish. Her birthday happens to be on the day of that concert. You're all invited to come out to LBS for the concert.
Yeah, my kids told me I'd love to watch Mamma Mia, and I said, I don't want to watch Mamma Mia. And they said, you're going to love it, Dad. And I said, I will not. And then I loved it. Then I loved it. I thought the actors were great, too.
Songs are good.
Brings back a time, John.
Yes, it does.
Okay, agenda item 12, old business, there is none. We've handled agenda item 13, there are no resolutions under 14. new business under 15. Agenda item 16, second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board. No member of the public is present for such purposes. There is no need for a closed session under 17, so Chair would like a motion to adjourn. So moved. By Trustee Schaller, thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Perkins, thank you both. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We are adjourned.